The Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey right here. Greatest black leader of the 20th century, leader of the largest black movement in modern history, the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League, for which I am a former Minister of Education. Marcus Garvey was born August the 17th, 1887, St. Anne's Bay, Jamaica, where I was a couple weeks ago. The Jamaican government recently made Marcus Garvey's childhood home a historic monument, and I was keynote speaker at the University of the West Indies in Jamaica for National Heroes Month. It was this man who gave us the red, black, and green flag. It was this man who brought 15 million Africans from all across the world together under the banner of the red, black, and green flag. We was light-skinned, dark-skinned, educated, uneducated, African, Asiatic, Caribbean, Black American, whatever you want to call yourself. And Marcus Garvey made us all stand up at one time and say, we are Africans. Never before have you had that. Malcolm X's father comes from his organization. In fact, Malcolm X's father was murdered doing work for the Garvey movement. His mother used to write articles for the Garvey paper. Minister Louis Farrakhan's family were Garveyites. The founders of the Rastafari were Garveyites. Every modern movement today owes a debt to Mr. Garvey for laying the foundation for how to build a mass movement.
Marcus Garvey had a tremendous impact on the world. African-American politician Adam Clayton Powell said, Marcus Garvey was one of the greatest mass leaders of all time. Nnamdi Azikiwe, former president of Nigeria, said, Garvey was one of the most far-sighted persons of African descent to walk upon God's earth. Martin Luther King Jr. said, in the history of the U.S., Garvey was the first man on a mass scale to give millions of Negroes a sense of dignity and destiny and make the Negro feel that he was somebody. Kwame Nkrumah, former president of Ghana, said, the book that did more than any other to fire my enthusiasm was Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Garvey.
J. Edgar Hoover had long relied on casual informants, but now, in his determination to go after Garvey, Hoover hired the first full-time black agent in the Bureau's history.
He was known by a code number. All his reports were signed 800. That was his code. And his job was to go into Harlem and to infiltrate the Garvey movement, to try and find evidence that could be used to build a legal case for ultimately getting rid of Garvey. Garvey rejected America. They could no more agree to and accept a militant rejection of America by blacks than they could accept a militant demand for full inclusion by blacks.
Just as the government campaign against him escalated, Marcus Garvey unveiled a new business enterprise. It was his most ambitious venture, but would prove to be the most fateful.
Get on board, countryman, get on board. Lazy none, get on board. Countryman, wine home on the Black Star Line. Wine home on the Black Star Line.
The idea comes to Garvey that black people need a shipping line. And he bases his idea on the fact that the Cunard family has the White Star Line and the Irish have the Green Star Line. And he says, why shouldn't blacks have the Black Star Line? So it is a vision of grandeur.
Black people were routinely Jim Crowed on ocean-going liners. Black folk paying, say, for first-class accommodation often had to travel in third-class accommodation. Black people on ships had to eat after the white people had finished eating. So all of these problems Garvey was trying to address through a shipping corporation.
His ships would carry more than passengers. Garvey envisioned commercial trade among black communities around the world, with produce, raw materials, and manufactured goods transported on UNIA vessels.
The Black Star Line was in some ways Garvey's Empire State Building. It was this monument to black commerce in the same way that the Empire State Building was this citadel of white capitalism. And it represented the ability of black people to seize the day and to have their own economy.
Garvey offered Black Star Line stock for sale in 1919, promising his investors liberation and large profits as they slept.
And making the purchase of those liners without being led by experts, he was deceived about the condition of those ships and overpaid for what their value should have been. It was a disaster for the movement and turned out to be a disaster for Mr. Garvey.
The UNIA was taking in thousands of dollars a day, but Garvey lived modestly on the 6th floor of a Harlem apartment building. He didn't drink or smoke and preferred to eat the same food night after night. Garvey spent his few idle hours arranging and rearranging a collection of Egyptian vases and African ornaments, making his home into an orderly private world. Unless it was about UNIA business, Garvey rarely spoke to even his closest associates. On August 1st, 1920, thousands of UNIA delegates from 25 countries assembled at Liberty Hall and Madison Square Garden. Garvey called it the International Convention of the Negro Peoples of the World. He hoped to move a step closer to his dream of a black nation in Africa, with himself at the helm.
The whole convention is this extraordinary public event of pomp and ceremony and magnificence and grandiloquence. Garvey, he would now establish a stage, a world stage for his movement. And effectively what he gave the black world was a government in exile, a government in waiting.
We have met in this historic building tonight for the purpose of enlightening the world respecting the attitude of the new Negro. If you believe that the Negro should have a place in the sun, if you believe that Africa should be one vast empire controlled by the Negro, then arise and sing the national anthem of the Universal Negro Improvement Association.
The month-long convention combined substance
and how do we go forward, which led to the development of the Declaration of Rights of the Negro Peoples of the World. They were thinking there needed to be a black Declaration of Rights.
This was an important document that called upon the nations of Europe and America to respect the rights of black people throughout the world. This was the moment at which Garvey, I think, was both the most powerful in the sense of his articulation of ideas of justice along racial lines, and at the same time, his most grandiose and megalomaniacal.
Ethiopia.
Garvey's UNIA bore the colors black, red, and green. The black representing the color of the skin of black Africans. The red, the blood that united all people of African ancestry, and the green representing the abundant nature of wealth in Africa. The representation and meaning of the Rastafarian flag is similar. The colors red, green, and gold. The red representing the blood of the blacks who struggled to fight off their white oppressors. The gold, the rich minerals coming out of the land of Africa. And green, the rich vegetation of the land. Arguably, a true indication that in the heart of Rasta, Garvey liveth.
Marcus Garvey is a prophet, man. Marcus Garvey tell that we must look to the east for the king. A lot of things Marcus Garvey say, and a lot of it come to pass. Some still live, and everyone see it. I mean, get more stronger, you know.
teaching of Marcus Garvey. Quebranegas means glory of kings.
We didn't have a public holiday for Marcus Garvey in this time.